chase is on with a desperate and violent pursuit across 4 parallel Londons for possession of a dangerous magical item. In the action-packed A Darker Shade of Magic. That is the book I'm reviewing on this episode of SFF180. Hello everybody, Thomas here as always. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, to state the obvious, fantasy has always been a genre that places a very, very high premium on the importance of complex and imaginative world building, which makes sense, right? If the whole point of fantasy is to transport you to other worlds. Now, in A Darker Shade of Magic, Victoria Schwab creates not 1, but 4 worlds, each of which in their own right is so dazzling that they really do help to elevate the fairly tropey plot that's attached to them. So, 4 parallel worlds converge at the City of London, each of them magical to a greater or a lesser degree. Grey London pretty much corresponds to our own world in Victorian times. Now, the next universe over, you have Red London, which is situated in a nation called Arness, in which the River Thames itself is this roiling source of raw magical energy from which even everyday citizens can draw at least a little bit of spellcasting ability. This is followed by White London, a harsh and colorless world in which magic is a nearly depleted natural resource. And finally, there is Black London, a blasted apocalyptic hellhole that was laid waste by its citizens' insatiable greed and lust for control of magic. Our hero Kell is a member of the Antari, a dwindling race of people with magic so deep in their blood that it has turned their left eyes completely black. Now, only the Antari have the ability to cross the portals between worlds. Now, Kell works for the Arnesian royal family as a liaison between their world and the rulers of White London and Grey London. Nobody ever goes to Black London. It's pretty much a magical Chernobyl. Now, Kell is part adopted son, part indentured servant to Red London's king and queen. He's very fond of his family, especially his adoptive brother, the Prince Rye, and yet he chafes at the restrictions upon his personal freedom and the combination of awe and terror with which he is viewed by the average Red London citizen. And so he rebels in his own small way with a little side trade in smuggling, transporting magical contraband to collectors in Grey London. Now, Vicky Schwab's smartest trick in this story is in creating very believable rules for the magic systems in each of her 4 parallel worlds, while at the same time stripping magic of any of the romanticism that fantasy fiction usually attaches to it. Spellcasting here is a very painful process requiring actual blood, and Kell's arms are crisscrossed with scabs and scars from all the times he has to cut himself in order to create the veils between universes. So yeah, if I were him, I'd be sick of that job too. There's a really good scene early in the book where a bemused Kell is in Grey London where he meets this young kid, this mundane kid, who is obsessed with learning magic. He has all these idealized notions in his head, and he's desperately trying to do some spell working of his own, and as Kell is just observing him, the message is abundantly clear. Kid, you have got no idea what you are getting into, and you are too dumb and inexperienced to know you're better off that way. Now, Lila Bard is the story's other protagonist, a 19-year-old street thief from Grey London, and she is, to be perfectly honest, far less of a morally inconsistent character than Kell. Her big aspiration in life is to go from street thief to pirate, captaining her own ship. And why shouldn't she aspire to that? After all, she has no reason to respect the respectable society, particularly considering that their people have made themselves all too easy for her to trick and to rob. And now, she isn't a bad person. She is simply someone who has been dealt a specific hand in life and is doing what she must to survive. But she values loyalty, and she is someone who does not waver once she has committed herself to a decision or a course of action. Now, with Schwab taking her time, taking an unhurried approach to establishing everything to her setup, we are fully a quarter of the way into the book before the story proper kicks in, and we're halfway through the book before Lila and Kell actually meet and team up. Kell is sent on an errand to White London to deliver royal correspondence to its twin rulers, Athos and Astrid Dane, 2 of the most hissably vile and arch villains you're likely to see this side of a Marvel movie. Now, the Danes have their own Antari courier, a man named Holland, who is enslaved to them through some magical bond, and he could be a respected colleague to Kell if it weren't for the way in which circumstances have forced him to be an incredibly dangerous nemesis. It is while on this mission that Kel is slipped a magical artifact of deeply destructive power and is tricked into transporting it back into Red London. Now fleeing for his life between the worlds, where a detour into Grey London brings Lila into the unfolding crisis, the book charges into its second half in a breathless flurry of action. Okay, so, taken on its own terms, the plot is pretty boilerplate stuff, right? You got your magic item, bad guys want it, good guys have to keep it out of the hands of the bad guys. But Schwab has taken the effort to create really terrific settings for us to fully immerse ourselves in. And her prose is a model of clarity, even if, on occasion, the plot is helped on its way by a few convenient coincidences. Attention to detail is deftly handled without causing any unnecessary narrative clutter. Turns out, White London has some pretty good reasons to hate Red London, even if the actions of the Danes specifically are reprehensible in the extreme. And though you would never lump Victoria Schwab in with the grimdark crowd, she knows how to keep her story's stakes high, her pacing tense, and how to deliver some real hurt when it really counts. Now, A Darker Shade of Magic, at the end of the day, may really only be best appreciated as a handsomely mounted escapist romp, but that's okay because there's no indication it expects you to take it as anything more than that. So curl up, get yourself a drink and some snacks, and enjoy this fresh spin on the color of magic. And that's all I have time for on this episode of SFF180, everybody. Remember, the most important thing, these are reviews. You will not always agree with me, but I want to thank you so much for joining me, as always. And if you enjoyed watching, please hit the like button, share the video far and wide with your SFF reading friends, and above all, please subscribe if you've not done so. That's how SFF180 grows as a channel. And until I see all of you lovely people next time, happy reading.